identified as Rivera's. The 33-year-old went missing last week while out on a boat with their 4-year-old son. He was later found on that pontoon boat alone. Law enforcement say the scene was certainly very emotional.
You have the 4-year-old son who was there, and I can't imagine what her parents are going through, her friends, her other family members. It's a tough time for them.
Officials say they do not suspect any foul play or suicide. Also in California, hundreds of sailors fighting the flames burning on a Navy ship docked in San Diego. The USS Bonhomme Richard catching fire Sunday. Some 400 sailors, along with other fire agencies and Navy helicopters, pouring water on the flames. The fire is burning 2 decks above the ship's fuel supply, 1 million gallons of oil that could spill if there is a rupture. U.S. Coast Guard has hired a cleanup crew to put a containment boom in place if there is a spill. Here at home in Georgia, the smell of burning rubber. Now, 27-year-old Rayshard Brooks was shot and killed here back on June 12th. The very next day, the fast food chain here on University Avenue was torched. Investigators say multiple people ignited the fire inside and outside of the restaurant, destroying it. And Wendy's has been closed ever since. Since Brooks' death, this has been the site of several deadly shootings in Atlanta and numerous violent and peaceful protests as well. Now, Atlanta police are out here on scene as well. They told me off camera that Wendy's is behind the demolition, not the city. They're out here just to ensure that everyone is safe. Should anyone want to come out and be out here, they just want to be here on scene as well. So again, crew's still working on the demolition process. We're live here in Atlanta. I'm Natalie.
Hamsters in a tight cage chase each other. The illegal stunt car driving looked a bit like that over the weekend. The smoke from the burned rubber, the fireworks, pleased a large crowd as midnight approached Saturday evening in Midtown.
People out here, they've got chairs, they sit down with chairs.
They are getting bolder, revving it up a notch almost every weekend. The Atlanta mayor has a theory.
Traffic is lower than usual, and so people are taking the opportunity to race on our streets.
On the city council, they have debated how they might persuade the drivers to stop blocking streets and go to a designated area. But that's likely a non-starter.
People are doing it not just because that's what they want to do. They're doing it for the thrill of it. They're not going to get the thrill of closing down Peachtree, closing down state highways, closing down the interstate at a designated area.
Blue lights, at least a half a dozen law enforcement cars showed up. The crowd scattered, and so did the stunt drivers.
We're asking people to please report it to 911. We are continuing to try and enforce it as best we can.
Based on just how quickly the crowd started to scatter, it just may be that the word has gotten out that just by showing up, watching, and taking those cell phone photos, you too are breaking the law. Now, what's on the books is one thing, catching those folks, quite another. From Zone 2 in Buckhead, I'm...
Bronson says his brother was often misunderstood by others because of his schizophrenia, but he was kind and always put others first. The family is now left searching for answers to understand what happened in the moments before his violent death.
I don't understand what he did was so bad. Somebody just stabbed him so many times.
Atlanta police have not released any information on a possible suspect in this case, but the family is pleading with anyone with information to please speak up.
No, we just want justice for what happened to him. We just want to find out more information about what happened. And if anybody is out there that knows anything, they need to please come forward.
His family does need some help.
Why are these scooters back on this sidewalk? I talked that woman down there in the Dangburn Mobility. They need to get these scooters off this sidewalk today. I think a pigeon done got snatched out of his feathers. Feathers all over the place. Somebody's gonna be pissed. Got him a flat tire.
others first. The family is now left searching for answers to understand what happened in the moments before his violent death.
I don't understand what he did was so bad. Somebody just stabbed him so many times.
Atlanta police have not released any information on a possible suspect in this case, but the family is pleading with anyone with information to please speak up.
No, we just want justice for what happened to him. We just want to find out more information about what happened. And if anybody is out there that knows anything, they need to please come forward.
His family does need some help.
Of July, when Lil Secoria was killed. Turner has not talked to Atlanta police about the case, but he and his mother say they definitely regret the 8-year-old's death and send their deepest condolences.
First, we was out there celebrating the 4th of July and Rayshard Brooks' death, and it was a good vibe, it was a good atmosphere. Nobody wanted that to happen, and it was a tragedy that it did happen. Unfortunately, it didn't have anything to do with me.
The driver just continued going forward and pushed the barricade into one of the people that had a rifle and knocked that person over. That person got up and immediately started firing upon that vehicle. And my client indicated that when the vehicle then went over to the side, he heard more gunshots, and that's when other people in the crowd continued to shoot at the car.
So Conley says there were multiple shooters, but insists he did not fire his weapon. There is no warrant for him, so he will not be turning himself in or even talking to police. Live in Buckhead, Angelique Proctor.
You don't need a lawyer if you're not guilty of anything.
We've always said that this was a guideline for businesses and for residents who actually cared about the science and the data and the metrics. And our guidelines were very clear that if we hit certain milestones, we would have to revert back to the previous phase. We were in phase 2, which was a bit easing of the restrictions, but given where we are with hospitalizations, the number of people who are testing positive and the trends that we are seeing upward, our guidelines very clearly laid out. We would go back to phase 1, and the public can see those guidelines so they can understand what we are tracking at atlstrong.org.
So you're saying that we're going back into phase 1 effective immediately. So what exactly does this entail? Is there a penalty, punishment for not following these guidelines?
These have always been recommended guidelines. So when we created our advisory council on